So today we're going to talk about real estate, why it's so easy to win and to lose. The worst thing in the world you can do is be unprepared. That's why I always teach everybody in my class, you got to know value. It's super important. The reason real estate is easy, and I think it's one of the main reasons it's easy for me, it's been easy for a lot of people too. I got a lot of new students that have made over $1 million, many of them. It's because really when it comes down to it, it's just math. If you understand numbers, and a lot of people don't, even though they're very, very simple, very, very basic, easy to do, it really is, it's just math. You look at what it's worth, what it costs, factor in the interest, factor in insurance, all the costs that, have to. First of all, let's just talk about the mistakes that you can make, why I take comfort in the fact that it's just math. So, you got a house. Doesn't really matter, right? You got a house, and everybody usually generally starts with a house. And so it doesn't matter what the interest rate is, right? I started in 10% interest rates. And the first property I bought, I actually bought, it doesn't really matter, but I bought a building. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to touch land. Well, when you buy a piece of land, everything you buy, every house, everything you buy is on a piece of land. There's just a lot of common sense things that you got to think about when it comes to buying, and it really is common sense. Don't pay more than something's worth, and then the opportunities are obvious. If you've ever looked for a car, and this is one of the main examples I like to use, if you've ever gone looking for a car, right? We've all bought a used car at some point in time when we couldn't afford to buy a new one, like when we were young. And so you kind of decide, well, I kind of want this car, this pickup. For me, it was pickups because I was in construction. You decide, all right, I want something about this year, whatever, long bed, short bed, or whatever the details are. And you got a range of years, like maybe you want something no more than 10 years old, and maybe as recent as 7 years old. And then you kind of look at that model car, and then you look at that year range, and then miles, right? You don't want something with 100,000 miles or 200,000 miles in some cases. So you decide on what you're comfortable with mileage-wise, and then you start figuring out what works for you. And then after you start looking at cars within that year range and the mile range that you decide, you'll start to get kind of an understanding of what value is, right? So you're looking and looking and looking, and then pretty soon you realize, okay, looks like I'm going to spend say $12,000 to $15,000 on a used car, and you're looking and looking, and then all of a sudden a car comes up that's within that range that you decided, and you can get it for $8,000. Little old lady, husband died, she's selling the car. You go, I'll take it. And now you just saved yourself, $7,000 by buying that car. That's what this is. It's no different. And I tell people, when you take that amount of time to go look for a car, you could keep looking for that same car all year. And then every time you find one that you can get for half that amount, you could go buy it. And you could make money just on concentrating on that one particular car. And so that's kind of what we do with houses. So the first houses that I bought, first building I bought, I got owner carried, right? I was 19. I was fortunate. I got owner financing. I got a long escrow that gave me time to get the payment up. I really didn't even have a down payment, but I got 6 months to come up with a down payment. So again, it's just math, right? And this is what I want to get back to. It's all about math, okay? So in my situation, the first property that I bought, the interest rates were 10%. That's what I paid on my first property. But I was just looking at what's the payment going to be on my building. Well, I offered $110,000, $10,000 down. I was going to move in. I got 6 months rent free. Because in other words, they're going to let me stay in the place until closing. So I had access to the property. So in my mind, it was just math. I go, okay, I'll stay here for 6 months. I'll save the rent that I don't have to pay to another landlord. And so I knew I'd have 10 grand in 6 months. Worst case, if I didn't like the building, I figured, hey, I'll walk, and that 10 grand I'll put in my pocket. And so those are the kinds of hedges. You want to think about a hedge, how to get out of certain things if things aren't working as well. Don't be discouraged by what you think are high interest rates right now, because the bottom line is you're going to factor in your payment, whatever your payment is, whatever it is. It's got to be, you got your payment on the house, you got insurance, you got tax. So these all have a dollar value, every one of them. And so all you got to do, it's that simple. You just got to add these amounts up, and then you'll know what your payment is. Then what? Then what are you going to look at? You're going to look at what it rents for, and that's a dollar value. And so it's really that simple. You just have to have all these line items, and it's not that many. If you're building a home, and believe me, I've built homes, I've built buildings, I've done some things that require a lot of number crunching. This is like the simplest of all. All you're doing is simply, it's just basic just basic math. And so what people do, they have low standards. This is probably the worst thing that you can do, is have low standards of profit, right? If you want to make a profit, you've got to set a high bar. In other words, you want to make a 40% delta, right? So in other words, if you're going to buy something for 100 grand, okay, let's just say it's 100K worth, you're not going to pay more than, max $60,000, 60K, so that you can make 40. So really, again, it's just math. Just number one, it's just math. And the things that people get into trouble with is when they just don't do the math. You just got to do the math. It's super simple. Or they think that getting a 10% off, which is a joke, right? That's a joke, right? 20% off. Again, that's no good, because what you're going to go through to borrow money and that sort of thing, if you're going to flip it, you're never going to make any money. You got to have about 40% off on average. As the numbers get a little bigger, you can deal with 30% discount and stuff like that. But under 100 grand, you really, I usually get more than 50% off. So just keep that in mind, and I'm going to get back to the desk here. I remember almost every detail of every property I've ever bought, because here's the deal, and you'll learn this if you get in my class. By the way, hit that subscribe button. I'm always late to tell people, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Number one, hit that subscribe button, and go to FlipAnythingUSA.com. You don't want to miss out on my channel. It's very easy. You can have a conversation with me. Just go, you can hit apply for mentorship, or go to the success page. And my success page is really filled with success. Just go through here, and you can fill out that little form you see there, and look at all these people that have made money.